A major media deal in Southern California, how the San Diego Union Tribune and LA Times could soon change ownership.
You're going to see somebody in me that's going to be very transparent, and I'm going to listen to the community, and if they've got a great idea and it works, I'm going to implement it.
One-on-one with David Nislight. KPBS talks with the man chosen to be San Diego's next police chief.
There's lots to celebrate right here in Town and Country as dozens of students get admittance into college and full ride scholarships. I'll tell you how you can get involved. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A change in ownership may be coming to the San Diego Union Tribune. The LA Times reports a Southern California billionaire will buy both papers from parent company Trunk. The reported buyer, Patrick Soon Chung, is a major shareholder. The Union Tribune and LA Times are both owned by the Chicago-based company. The deal is reported to be for nearly $500 million. An official announcement has not been made, but the LA Times reports one is expected soon. Another volatile day on Wall Street. Stocks regained some of the ground lost during Monday's record drop. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 567 points, or about 2.3%. It opened the day with a sudden 500-point drop, but recovered strongly. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ also made up some of the ground lost Monday. By now, many people have heard San Diego Police Department's Assistant Chief, David Nislight, was tapped to be the agency's next leader. That's pending a City Council confirmation vote later this month. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto sat down with the veteran police officer to find out how he'll tackle one of the department's most pressing issues, its relationship to the community.
You've been tapped by the mayor to be the next police chief.
Yes.
Why do you want that role?
It's something that's been a kind of a lifelong dream, or not necessarily a lifelong dream, but being in this job for 30 years, and it's something that I have a lot to give back to this community. I was born and raised in this community and have a very vested interest in law enforcement, come from a law enforcement family, and I just feel like I can be the right person to work with the community to continue to drive our crime rates low.
You're going to be replacing Shelley Zimmerman, if confirmed. How do you plan to distinguish yourself from her as chief?
Well, the big thing right now is you look at our department, it's not broken. And so just to kind of expand and continue that path that we're doing, just really focusing on community policing, obviously priority one. We're over 200 officers short right now, so the big deal will be getting out in the community and recruiting the very best and brightest, but I really want to focus on our community.
You brought up community policing, but day to day, on the ground, what does it actually look like?
It starts by getting out of your car, and as we continue to build this department, that will allow us that time to get out there, and so I'm going to ask officers to schedule time in their day and actually journalize it, getting out, send, even if it's 10, 15 minutes at a time, pick a couple blocks in the business district or a residential area and just walk around and say hello and introduce yourself and actually ask, hey, do you feel safe? Is there anything that we as the San Diego Police Department can do for you? We
can check back in with you on those specific points, and will you be willing to share any documentation that that's actually going on?
Please do.
Okay. A report showed that Hispanic and Black drivers were searched more often than whites. Chief Zimmerman has responded that everyone has bias and said that the department has training to address that. But what actions will you take in response to the findings of the report? Because we know that the communities of color are still critical of some of the actions of the police department, even after Chief Zimmerman has responded to the report.
And, a lot of it is training. It's the implicit bias, the non-biased policing, and the procedural justice. You've got to remember, those numbers are dating back to 2014 and 2015. So come July 1, we have the Assembly Bill 953 coming forward that we'll be in full compliance with. I'm actually welcoming the scrutiny. So I want to look at all the variables. And with AB 953, there's going to be more variables to really tell the story, to kind of take a deeper dive into this issue. And I'm going to look at this on a monthly basis. We're going to report this out. I'll obviously have to do this also with the Department of Justice annually. But this is something that I will roll out and tell our own story and post that on a web page. So with full transparency, I really want to talk about accountability and transparency. And when you take a look at into all those variables, I'm thinking a lot of this will be flushed out. And if it's not, we'll fix it.
Throughout the selection process, which I understand you didn't have anything to do with how that went, but there was a number of community groups and legal groups concerned about the lack of transparency. And throughout the process, there were some changes that were actually made. But they recently issued, I printed it out, an open letter to you. Yes. I'm not sure if you saw this.
I did.
Can you tell me what actions you plan on taking in response to what they're asking?
What I'd like to do is, there's, I believe, a meeting on the 12th that's going to be a community forum. I'm looking forward to sitting down with every single all the folks about this and hashing all this stuff out. A lot of their requests we already do. Some of the things like, they want to understand our training on de-escalation. I'll share the learning domains that are shared, that are used in the academy, that are used in our advanced officer training, and are used during our critical response team training that all officers get. So I'm going to be very transparent about this. So we'll go through these. I'd like to meet with all those folks and go through from point 1 through point 12. And we'll talk them all out. You're going to see somebody in me that's going to be very transparent. I'm going to listen to the community. And if they've got a great idea and it works, I'm going to implement it.
Thank you so much for joining us, Assistant Chief Ms. Light.
Thank you for having me.
A pilot and passenger were killed this morning in Santee when their small plane crashed near Gillespie Field. Santee firefighters say the plane crashed on Prospect Avenue about a block away from the airport. Investigators say the pilot noticed a mechanical problem shortly after takeoff and tried to return for a landing. No one on the ground was hurt. 2 dogs riding in the plane survived. There's no official word yet on the cause. Cities around San Diego County got their grades today regarding their climate action plans. The results show many cities are struggling. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
San Diego and Encinitas received the highest gold rating for their climate action plans, followed by the cities of Solana Beach and Del Mar.
Changing the way we power our future and our lifestyle, changing the way we move people around the city, going to zero waste.
Nicole Kapritz heads the Climate Action Campaign and helped create the city of San Diego's original climate action plan. This year, Kapritz says they looked at how cities were actually implementing their plans.
So that includes the city of San Diego, and they got a bronze. So that was our highest score region-wide. And so we want to change that.
So we adopted our climate action plan in July of 2017.
Dan King is the assistant city manager for Solana Beach. Their climate action plan scored a silver.
I think it's appropriate with the stage that we're in, since we haven't started the implementation plan.
King says the plan will be brought to City Council for approval soon. Like other cities, Solana Beach is trying to figure out how much implementing a climate action plan will cost taxpayers.
It's a huge task to actually reduce our carbon footprint in half. That requires staff. That requires people shepherding kind of these changes through the process. And so, yes, it requires an investment in resources. And unfortunately, cities aren't quite doing that yet.
The campaign says Poway is the only local municipality not currently working on a climate action plan. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
San Diego is testing a new approach that could make it easier to buy fully electric or hybrid cars and trucks. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says the plan could significantly boost sales.
The Center for Sustainable Energy is rolling out a new rebate program where consumers can sign up before they purchase a car. Now, once they're signed up, consumers can go to an authorized dealer and get their clean vehicle rebate as they buy the vehicle. San Diego County Supervisor Ron Roberts says that'll help California hit some lofty electric vehicle targets.
We want to get 1 million by 2020, 1.5 million by 2025, and 5 million by 2030. So it's programs like these that are going to help people to make those connections and really understand, hey, there's no reason not to be doing that.
San Diego and San Diegans have a culture of innovation and embracing new technology, and also one of appreciating the environment and our beautiful quality of life. This rebate program encompasses all of those things.
Now, if the rebate program works here, it will be expanded to the rest of the state. Californians have collected more than $480 million in rebates for more than 200,000 electric vehicles since 2009. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
San Diego students will have a chance to connect with more than 24 colleges this evening. It's part of an expo hosted by San Diego Unified featuring historically black colleges. KPBS reporter Jade Heinman joins us from Mission Valley with more on the Black College Expo. Hi, Jade.
Hey there, Ebony. So let me tell you, this place is packed. Town and Country is packed, filled with a lot of excited students right now. They are getting admission into college. They are getting scholarships. There are 26 historically black colleges and universities in this building right now. I want to bring in one student here, Khadijah Paul. She's a student over at Hoover. She's a senior, and you've been having a lot of luck here today, right?
Yes, I have.
Tell me, so where are you going? She's got admitted into what, 5 schools?
5 schools, and I got $22,000 in scholarships today. And I'm just really happy about this because usually in high school I'm not aware of black universities, and this is the first time I ever heard about it. So knowing that there's actually opportunities here for me, and I didn't even have to apply, like it was just straight up admission, so I was really happy about it.
And so any idea of where you're eyeing?
Probably Lane University.
Okay, what do you want to study?
Sociology and child development.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I wish you the best of luck. And one of your counselors is here, yeah. So tell me, what do students need to come prepared with when they
Well, today we were told to bring their high school transcripts and their SAT, ACT test scores. So we brought 11th graders and 12th graders so they can start exploring even earlier and then the 12th grade and the 11th grade to start looking at their options outside of California.
All right, fantastic. And so how do you go about preparing students for college then?
Just having some rigorous classwork. It starts in the 9th grade with, math, world language, AP, advanced courses that Khadijah has been taking at Hoover High School, as well as just preparation for the SAT and the ACT, doing those workshops that we offer at the high school.
Fantastic. And I've noticed that there is a push here to make people aware of how diverse HBCUs are. Tell me about it.
Definitely. At Hoover High School, it's very diverse in itself, so we have students of all ethnicities, of different languages, students who come who don't know English and then they're graduating within the 4 years, so it's open to all. So our bus that we brought from Hoover High School, that's what we did. There's Latino students and African American students on our bus today.
How many students altogether?
Well, on our bus, we only brought a few because we have a conflict. There's some basketball games.
Basketball.
There's a lot of stuff going on at a high school campus. So definitely if this was during the school day, I think we could have filled up the bus. But there's a lot of students here from San Diego Unified. We got lucky that we got 5 school buses. Lincoln, Crawford, San Diego High, I believe, is also here representing San Diego Unified.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. And Khadijah, did you come today expecting to get scholarships right on the spot?
I was told the schools were going to give us scholarships, but I didn't know it was going to be right on the spot. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, I'm really grateful for this event.
Hey, well, congratulations to you. I so appreciate the both of you. Thank you. Best of luck choosing.
Thank you.
All right, so a lot of students out here today have a lot of choices to make. $500,000, $500,000 in scholarships have been given away so far. Again, 26 schools here, but that's not all. They've also got a program called the Umoja program, and if you go to the community college in San Diego, you automatically get admission into 35 HBCUs as long as you've got a 2.5 GPA. That's automatic admission into those schools. So there's a lot of information here. It goes on until 7 o'clock right here at Town and Country. For now, I'm live at Town and Country. Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
It looks like a great event. Thanks, Jade. Steps have been taken at the state capitol to protect whistleblowers when it comes to sexual misconduct. But new details show state leaders are concealing information from the public. Reporter Sherry Gyro has the story.
2 sets of documents. One, a detailed list of settlements and sexual misconduct investigations. The other, settlements from completely different claims. What's been handed to us is a disorganized mess, but state lawmakers want to sell these piles as proof that they are being transparent when it comes to the dirty culture of sex and power at the California state capitol. And some aren't buying it.
We cannot have gag orders. We need to have full transparency.
Critics say state officials are still concealing sexual misconduct records at the Capitol, being selective about what gets released.
There's no more time for hiding everything. We sort of know that this is a reality.
Months ago, the Senate sent us 8 settlement records that revealed the names of all victims, with payouts nearing $500,000, and concealed the accused. We blocked the victims' names to protect their identity. They were forced to leave their jobs, slapped with gag orders, and paid a pittance with hush money. The Senate even paid for one woman's medical bills, still forcing her to keep quiet. Missing are 7 investigations relating to each case, concealing the names of the accused, except for one.
You have every right now to say, okay, you've given me Part A, now give me Part B and let's connect the dots.
In the Senate and Assembly's investigation pile, payouts to 2 women totaled almost $250,000. 4 sitting lawmakers over the past 10 years were named in the records, including Assemblyman Travis Allen, who in 2013 was accused of tapping a woman's foot and later squeezing her shoulders during a greeting. Allen, a Republican running for governor, says releasing his name while concealing others is a dirty political move by the Democrat-controlled legislature.
I'm sure I've tapped many people on the shoulder and shaken many people's hands and accidentally tapped people on the feet many, many times over the course of my life.
Between investigations, settlements, and severances, California taxpayers have shelled out more than $1 million for bad behavior in the legislature. And critics say there's probably a lot more we don't even know about. At the state capitol, I'm Sherry Gairo reporting.
I'm John Yang. Tonight on the NewsHour, can Congress avoid yet another government shutdown? That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A frantic scene is unfolding overnight in Taiwan, where buildings have been buckled after a strong earthquake. Pictures show a hotel and other buildings close to collapsing. 2 people are reported dead and more than 100 injured. First responders in Taiwan also report a bridge has been destroyed. The magnitude 6.4 quake struck just before midnight local time and was followed by several aftershocks. At the White House, the Trump administration is digging in on immigration. And Chief of Staff John Kelly says President Trump is unlikely to extend next month's deadline for the DACA program. President Trump, during a meeting on gang violence, threatened a government shutdown if Congress doesn't approve money for a border wall.
Let's have a shutdown. We'll do a shutdown, and it's worth it for our country. I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this stuff taken care of. So we have to strengthen our borders, not by a little bit, but by a lot. We are so far behind the time. And by the way, the world is laughing at us because they can't believe these policies. They don't have it. I could name 15 of them right now. No other country in the world has what we have. And we're going to get it stopped.
As President Trump and Congress continue to debate the wall, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Junot Diaz is looking to help young immigrants. He's written a new book, Island Born, to show immigrant children their lives are normal, even if they feel out of place. He spoke with KPBS Frontiers reporter Jean Guerrero.
How do you hope that your latest book addresses some of these, the need to bring about some of these truths to young people in the United States?
Childhood is an important time where people begin to learn, in some ways, the basic grammar of the world they live in. And if you're left out of that basic grammar, then you've got to spend the rest of your life making up that deficit. So I thought one of the good things for me as an artist and as a writer would be to turn and try to do a kid's book to try to redress and address some of that deficit, where so many kids of color are reading books that have nothing to do with them, that don't represent them. They, in fact, are reading books where they have to think of themselves or think of the world as completely white because that's all they see. And therefore, even when they think of the world, they're leaving themselves out because that's what they've been taught.
Did the current national debate around immigration and some of the rhetoric around immigration, did that have an effect on your decision to write a children's book?
I mean, ultimately, what's happening in the world impacts who you are as an artist, but I write really, really slow. One of the things about Donald Trump and this whole kind of white supremacist, white nationalist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant racism that we see is that it has really old roots. Since I was a young person when I first immigrated to the United States, this is a country that makes it really clear that as an immigrant, especially a poor immigrant of color, a poor immigrant of African descent from a Latino community, you're almost always on probation. That's what they make you feel. And you're almost always represented in the larger culture as some abomination or some criminal or some trouble. The fact that Trump's discourse was so popular is because it's so deeply embedded in so many places and in so many communities. I grew up being told we were a problem and being told that we come to this country because we're criminals and being criminalized, when in fact, all the immigrants that I knew made these immense sacrifices, worked like animals, almost cut off half their souls to make it in this country, to provide for their families out of love.
What do you think about President Trump's plans to build a wall here?
The United States already has the most militarized, the most defended, the most just difficult border for anyone to traverse in the world. This is a border that begins on the other side of Mexico. I think that ultimately the border for me is far more symbolic of this just collapsing imaginary, this kind of just messed up cynicism and messed up xenophobic nativism of so many people who feel lost and who feel threatened. You know, this is a world and a country that is being devoured by economic elites. But the average folk is so distracted and so confused that they think that the real person who's invading, the real person who's causing damage, and the real reason that they feel sense of loss and feel a sense of threat is because of Latino immigrants in the South. They think that somehow this wall will repair everything. Well, that's not true. Unfortunately, you're just walling yourself in with your predators.
What do you mean by the collapsing imaginary?
We're seeing the outcomes of a poor educational system. Completely, the public education system has cratered because, you know, of all of these kind of conservative acts to defund it. So critical thinking is a rarity. Yeah, when there's not a public educational system, people have been taught to be afraid of everything. Outsiders, folks who are queer, folks who are poor, folks who are different than them racially. Yeah. Ultimately, all of these things tie into a collapsing imaginary. People can't imagine that, you know, your neighbor could be of someone good. They can't imagine that the future, if we pull together, would be better.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Sunny and warm weather will stick around this week with a bit of a cool down for the weekend. Erin Calandra has a closer look in tonight's forecast.
We're seeing some pretty calm conditions here in the southwest, as it has been. It's still dry and it's still warm, although it's a bit cooler today than it has been the last couple of days. It is going to warm up, though. So here we are taking a look at the southwest, and not much happening. It is quiet for everyone across California. Tonight, temperatures down to 51. It's going to be a nice clear night. And taking a look across the region, Oceanside, a clear night, 41 degrees. Poway, 48, and Alpine, 48 degrees. Borrego Springs, 50 degrees for the low. Now, we do have a very pleasant Wednesday ahead of us. This dry air coming on down from the north, high pressure in place, which means plenty of sunshine. It's going to be nice, although we are in a drought. Look at this, moderate conditions. We do need the rain, even worse toward Los Angeles County. So any kind of wet weather would be great for us. Tomorrow, it's going to stay dry and sunny. Oceanside, 78 degrees for the high. San Diego, 77. And then inland, of course, a bit warmer. Poway, 84, and Ramona, 82 degrees. Mount Laguna, nice and cool, 62 for the high. Everyone will have beautiful sun. Now, the jet stream is kind of cruising along here across the northern part of the country. So to the north of that, frigid conditions, even some snow. But to the south, it is mild. Very nice conditions for pretty much everyone. We will see some rain moving into the deep south here over the next several days. Now, here we are with our temperatures for the next couple of days. Take notice, 78 on Wednesday, dropping down slowly. By the weekend, we are expecting our temperatures to be in the 60s. That's because a low pressure system will be hovering on top of us, and we might we could see just some spotty showers on Sunday. It's still kind of far away, but there is a possibility for it. Inland, again, 84 degrees by Wednesday, warming up to 85 Thursday, and then cooling down to the 60s for the weekend. So sweater-like conditions for the weekend for pretty much everyone. In the mountains, we even dropped down to the 30s on Sunday. So very chilly conditions, and in the deserts, it's going to go from the 80s down to the 60s, but staying sunny across the deserts. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
A successful test launch for SpaceX today in Florida. The Falcon Heavy rocket is one of the most powerful rockets to be developed in decades. The technology will help deliver more items into orbit at a cheaper cost. After separating from the main rocket, 2 reusable boosters return to Earth. The main rocket is carrying a Tesla sports car and will travel beyond Mars. Now here's a look at some of the stories we're working on in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, counting down to the Winter Olympic Games and the Russian doping scandal that continues to haunt it. And on Midday Edition, finding romance, adventure, and more at the Jewish Film Festival. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories online at kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.